Welcome again to PR Presents. Hope you've all been keeping well. Now, for many, if not all of us, music is such a feel-good feeling, and we often remember when we first got into a band, genre, or even a particular instrument. Many summers ago, I was out one day in Birmingham and was walking past someone's house and heard this beautiful sedate sound of the tabla drums and was taken away by it and fascinated to find out more about its place within Indian culture and modern day music. Well, today I'm pleased to be joined by one of the UK's most revered tabla players and teachers to find out more about his journey and delve more into my fascination from all those summers ago. Dalbir Singh Rattan, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Patrick. Lovely to see you.
And yourself. Well, Dal, I'll begin by asking, where did your passion for Indian classical music start?
At home, really. From a young age, my grandfather always listened to old Hindi cinema music and was fond of classical music. And he played the harmonium and he'd sing at the local Sikh temple in Leeds. And before he came to the UK, he would sing on the radio in East Africa, in Tanzania. So he's always been very musical. So everything really stemmed from there for me, really. So yeah, it was always around me, and my grandfather was singing, and that's really where the interest kind of sprung from. I didn't even know about classical music. It was just the music that I was growing up around, really.
And how integral is the instrument to Indian history and culture?
I think it's quite prominent, really, and very closely bonded with the traditions and cultures of South Asian heritage. In fact, if I walk into my mum's house, it's full of Indian dramas, and there'll be Zee TV on, and it's all musical, it's loud, it's theatre, it's drama, it's tragedy, it's all of those things, So music is definitely a big part of South Asian culture, but learning to play an instrument is not so much, I find. It's just, you hear it, you enjoy it, and it's a part of your everyday life. But if you do want to take it up as a profession, then that's quite a taboo area, really, to go into. But so I think it's definitely integral. It's a part of it, yeah.
Well, going on to your secondary school days in Leeds, perhaps not surprisingly, you did a GCSE in music. How well recognised in that era was the tabla drum within musical education?
None whatsoever.
Really?
So it did. I mean, when I took GCSE music, my father especially was dead against it. He thought it's a waste of time, and didn't see any point in it. But fortunately, my music teacher, Mrs. Grinder at Alton Grange School, asked me what instrument would I like to play. So I said the tabla, and she didn't know anything about the tabla, and asked her whether I could bring my drums into school and just kind of share what I had been doing with it for the past almost 10 years up till then. And she had no idea. So when I did bring the drums in, she was really supportive, and she said, well, you should play the tabla and maybe write some music and do a practical with a string player or a brass player. And I think it was all down to her really giving me that chance to take tabla as my main instrument at GCSE, even though it wasn't even a part of the instruments that were available to play or to learn. She gave me, and then she arranged for my teacher, who was teaching me at the local Sikh temple, to come into the school. And that was a first. And I'm talking 1992, long time ago. Yeah.
I've seen on YouTube that you've performed with the legendary tabla player Ustad Sukhvinder Singh Baj, aka Pinky, and the sitar player Rupar Panisar. How important do you feel they've both been for you for developing your own style of Indian classical?
Well, my Guruji, my teacher, is the biggest influence on me in regards to my approach to my art form, because my training with him was extremely rigorous, and his expectations are very high. I mean, he's a world-renowned tabla player, and he's played with the best, with the Ravi Shankars and the creme de la creme of the Indian classical music scene. And, worked alongside Rai Kuda. He won a Grammy in '94. So those experiences that he had, he would share those with me. So it wasn't just the learning of the tabla, it was the time spent and learning about his journey with his teacher. So that's the beautiful thing about Indian classical music, the way it all kind of works below the radar, if you know what I mean. But there was a lot of hours sitting down and practicing patterns and also reciting patterns. And I realized the depth of the instrument when I was with him, and the beauty of the art form. I feel everything that I have learned is not just because of the support of family, etc., but he's been pivotal in my life, and I'm always grateful for that. And through him and because of him, I got to play with great players. He built me up to do that. He gave me the understanding what Indian classical music was all about, what solo tabla playing is all about, what accompaniment is all about. And in Indian classical music, it's not scripted. You don't take a sheet of music on stage with you. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours of improvisation, but within such constraints that it's extremely complicated. You mentioned Rupa as well. So Rupa, again, we studied together. She's a British-born sitarist. I'm a British-born tabla player. So we're kind of the first generation of Indian classical musicians here. That's why we have such a bond.
I understand as well that in the early noughties you teamed up with Aziz Ibrahim, once of Simply Red and the Stone Roses. What genre was it that you both produced? Because I understand you had a double act going of Aziz and Dal.
It's difficult to box what we created. Aziz is an electric player, but for me, I came from a classical scene, and it was a total paradox to what was going on. We didn't go in thinking that this is the genre of music we're going to create. It sort of developed. It kind of formed itself. It just took shape, just like putting water into anything. It just takes that shape, and that's what happened with us. We thought, it was a blues, but then we came with the Asian blues. The blues comes out of really, the oppression of people. The emotion. When you play and support people like Paul Weller, Richard Ashcroft, Ian Brown, Marillion, you play alongside, Massive Attack. You play alongside these bands, big crowds, and you've got a guy with a tabla and a guy with a guitar who comes up first, and then, it's not dinner party music then, Patrick. It's right in your face music, and that's how we brought it across. And we got so much love from people around the world, and especially the music, the UK music scene and bands. They gave us a huge support. I'm really privileged to have worked with those guys. Really, really honoured to have done that. Not many people get a chance. I was a fan of Ian Brown's, a fan of Paul Weller's. When you get a call and say, do you want to come and record on our album? It's a dream come true for somebody.
So you've mentioned some real big names there, like Ian Brown, Paul Weller, Noel Gallagher, Richard Ashcroft, just to name a few. When you've performed with them, has it been them actually playing, I suppose if you like, acoustic versions of their well-known music and then tablas have been added into that? Or that you've actually created music from scratch with tablas being at the heart of it?
Well, I played on their work. So they would write the music. So I played on Paul Weller's Studio 150 album, which was a covers album. And I was on tour with Steve White, who was Paul Weller's drummer, Mick Talbot from Style Council, Damon Minchella, who played bass with Ocean Colour Scene, a Birmingham band, and also with The Who. He worked with The Who and with Weller. And Aziz was on that. And it was a band called The Players. It was kind of like this super group of people from different bands. And so all these well-known musicians and plus me. And I was on this tour with them. When I was on this tour, Paul Weller, we did a gig at the Jazz Cafe in Camden. And Paul Weller came to that gig. Yeah, he just invited me to come down and said, I've written an album, come down and have a listen to it. I went down to his studio, met his father, met his family, and yeah, totally embraced me. I went down and did the recording. I was playing on a song called All Along the Watchtower, a very well-known song. And Weller was doing covers of songs that he really loves. really loves. And it was a big gamble, to do a covers album. But he just did an absolutely amazing job with it. And I heard it had everything on it. And I was like, why does it need tablas on this? But I was just so kind of made up to, excited to get down there and do it. And then took me on tour, got me to play on, more work. I was opening up for him. I opened up at Kentish Town Hall for him. These are massive gigs, and I don't think they come about. So it's more than just the playing. It's actually, it's not the art, it's the artist, really, I think. And I've been lucky to have, people like Aziz play on music that I've written. And I'm working on a few things. I've got a few things kind of bubbling. And I'm hoping that I can get some of these very, very fantastic and famous musicians to come and play on something that I write. I'd love to do that.
And how key has working with such names like that been to give the tablas mainstream recognition?
I don't know about the instrument being recognised. I think I was just fortunate to be able to tour with, famous, great musicians who have a huge following. And when you're on tour with those bands, people see your instrument because it's a different instrument to your bass, guitar, drums. So the tablas were something that people would just look at and think, what are they doing? What are they doing there? So I think that there was an element of surprise there for the audiences, but also for me, because I wasn't playing in a classical concert, Indian classical concert. I was playing in a rock and roll venue, where there's people, shouting and screaming, and there's beer flying everywhere and all of that stuff. So, for it to be recognised, I don't think anybody really cared so much about it and never paid any attention until I played it, until I actually got the sound out in that hall, in that room. And I just wanted it to be louder than them. So they wanted them to pay attention to it. I didn't want it to be dinner party music. We might have been the support band, but we were that powerful. Any gig we'd do. So that was a recognition. So they'd look at the tabla and they think, wow, look at that. It's quite a small drum, but it's such a big sound. And that's where I thought, yeah, if it's done in the right way, it can do that. It can fill the room. And I think a lot of people gave me a lot of love for it. There's a lot of beer flying at me. I think that's love.
Well, finally then, Dal, I'll finish as I started when I mentioned about the tablas being a beautiful, sedate instrument. As someone who's a teacher, obviously it's very satisfying to see students actually learning from yourself and enjoying what they're doing. But in the rigours of modern day life, how much do you find that actually teaching the tablas is a good way to meditate?
I think it's the best way to meditate for me. It's been a massive healer, and it centers me. And if you play an instrument, any art form, if you can't have that spiritual meditative connection to it, then there's something missing there. In regards to teaching, I teach a lot online, but I've recently started working with the Birmingham Royal Conservatoire, because I want there to be a path and opportunities for students learning the tabla in the community. And I'm not just talking about the Asian community. I'm talking about every single person from anywhere can access it. So I want to change that culture of people, the way they look at Indian music. Indian music is looked upon as Bhangra, dancing, running down a hill, let's do the light bulb dance, let's do all of that. If you look at the classical arts, I just feel they're very rarely kind of spoken about in mainstream education. I'm not talking about it in a snobby way. I'm just saying, let's have a little bit of equality there, so that there is also access. I mean, I work with the Conservatoire percussion department, and they're all, they've been really supportive, and we're building this whole thing up. I want it to move quickly because, I've got students who might want to get jobs, might want to, take it forward, get credited, get grading, So there's kids who learn tabla for 20 years and they couldn't tell you what grade they are. They've got nothing to show for it. And I think that is a responsibility of these big, places that they have all their practice rooms and things like that. Let the local community also access. So they've got to reach out to them, because a lot of the local community don't even know where that place is. So I'm just trying to kind of just create a little a little road, a little path, so that people after me can continue it and really get something back from it. Because the last thing I want is people to put, their lives and dedicate their lives and time and energy to it and have nothing to show for it. I think there's, more can be done for that. So I'm just trying to do that, to be honest. That's the plan, man.
Excellent. Well, let's hope that this path as well turns into a motorway, most certainly. So, well, Dal, what an amazing journey it is you've been on, and it's been fantastic to chat to you again today, and good to see that by and large tablas are becoming more and more universal in contemporary music, and long may that continue. Well, that's it for today, folks, so please do take care of yourselves out there and tune in again soon for more PR Presents.